yoga exercises?
Oh, yeah.
Kriya yoga exercises.
Hold on 1 second.
Well, welcome everybody, and it's almost Durga Puja season time. It starts on the, Navaratri starts on the 14th this year, 14th to the 24th. You'll probably be getting an email either from Jeff or from somebody in another suggesting that you might like to do some extra jopam during those days. And so be on the lookout for that. We usually either do our own mantra extra times, or after you've done what your usual practice is, chant Jai Shri Durga for a certain number of times. Then there's also a special time on the 22nd, I said, right?
So
Sunday the 22nd, from I think it's 7:32 to 8:18, something like that. Where it's called Sunday Puja, not Sunday because it's on a Sunday, but Sunday Puja.
Something means union.
Yeah, it means union, conjunction. If you've studied Sanskrit, they put their words together, like Germans do that too. They amalgamate all their words together in a Sunday or a joining. And so anyway, it's the conjunction of the 2 days, and it's the time when Mother Durga is slaying the great demon Mahisasura. So we're going to be talking about the hymns. So let's do one of them. That's
does everybody have a page for the hymns? Is there any extras?
this. We're not going to get to that quite yet.
Okay, just wanted to make sure before we got into it.
Right.
Not
We're
this
going
one.
to do.
Yeah.
I've run
What
out.
we're gonna be doing.
What do you do?
Do we have any extras?
I don't, these are different ones, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're
that's
two
not,
sets.
that's coming attractions.
But on page 153.
Oh.
Of
is
our,
this the black book?
Yeah, I guess so.
in our
I didn't know.
song book. Unfortunately, there.
Extra sets here.
No, it's a black book.
Yes.
One book.
No, but still, if it's extra, give it back to him for the next.
It's
Yeah,
extra.
152.
Thank you so much.
I listen to some.
And you made it work. I like it. I think there's some more black books.
I listen to some.
Oh, yeah.
You know, we see.
Do you have that? What page?
153.
Thank you. One more? Here.
Oh, okay.
We got it. I think the white one is different.
Oh, it
I
is.
think so. Yeah, just in case. 153.
Oh, there are many popular tunes because it's a very popular hymn. So hopefully you can catch on, since we're going to be doing it 19 times. By the time we get to halfway through, I'm sure you'll have picked up the tune. And it goes through a series of qualities or attributes of the Divine Mother, indicating that she embodies everything. So I'll play it through once first, and then we'll begin to sing Is that too low? Okay. And then it's the same thing except you insert all those different words at the bottom. So we're going on to number 2, so this time where it said booty before missing.
I can, no, it's okay. I
finish them already?
Yes.
All right, we're good. All right, let's see, if there's something else you'd like to do. It's another quick, another. Mangla is actually part of the last hymn, and we'll talk about that as we get to the latter part. Let's see.
She said, body, mind, intellect, everything. So whatever mistake we made, she.
By the way, I wanted to mention we have a murti of Kalima on
Yeah, I see
on
that.
the altar. And she's from India. It's beautiful, and it'll be perfect for Navaratri and for really seeing and feeling the spirit of Ma. You can see all the details with Shiva on the ground prostrate and Ma dancing, and their long black hair is really beautiful. So when you go up there, definitely enjoy.
Down to the song in the background.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's 147.
147. Only 47.
Only
Only 47. 47.
147.
147. Oh.
Familiar with this with that repeats that first half. Shri Mata, Jai Is that supposed to be? Yeah, it is. Okay. More time at the beginning. This is not familiar to me at all. This is familiar to you either. So.
It doesn't seem.
All right, let's go. Okay, let's do the one at the bottom of the page and on the way. Let's meditate on Om and do a silent meditation, then we'll have our.
now.
It's the pink.
Om Sahatu Sahatu Unaktu Sahaviryam Karavana Tejasvidavaditamachi May Brahma protect us, may guide us and give us strength and right understanding. May love and harmony be with us all. Oh, peace, peace. All right, so today we're going to talk about the hymns from the Chandi. Last year, I think we gave a brief summary of the Chandi, and I'll do an even briefer one now so you get the context of the hymns. But at first reading, if you've never read it or you just read it out of context, you might think it's just kind of a big, crazy mythological story. But it has a lot of deep symbolism, and it's set into three different sections. The first section has to do with two demons called Madhu and Kaitava, and they stand for the tamasic ego. It's the part of you that in the morning says, I don't want to get up this morning. And in the myth, you see that symbolized by them trying to slay Brahma so he can't do the next creation. And of course, the symbolism, as you know, the cosmos goes to sleep and then it awakes, and then it goes to sleep and then it awakes. So they don't want Brahma to create another cycle, and so they're going to try to kill him. So he has to awaken Vishnu so that Vishnu can slay them. Now there's a version of this in the Vaishnava literature which doesn't even mention the deity. So this is something we also have to keep in mind with Hinduism, is that each different sect of Hinduism will emphasize their particular deity, and they may work in the other deities in one way or another, but they may not emphasize them. So the story is told in that context that doesn't refer to the Devi. But in this one, the Devi is the main impetus for getting these two demons slain. She doesn't do it directly, but she pulls the veil of Maya over them so that they become puffed up with their ego and their pride, and that is their downfall. And so Lord Vishnu is able to defeat them. So the first hymn is the petitionary hymn to the Devi in order to have Vishnu awaken. So that's, let's look at the symbol. Okay, you have two copies. One is the straight translation, and the other is the my reworking of the words to fit into a musical setting. So let's look at the English translation by Devadatta. And it says, Brahma said, you are Swaha and Swata, the mantras of consecration to the gods and the ancestors. At your bidding, they are uttered, and they are your very embodiment. You are the nectar of immortality. O imperishable eternal one, truly you abide as a transcendent being, yet in every moment you abide, inseparable and inexpressible, as the eternal source of all becoming. Indeed, you are that. You are Savitri, the source of all purity and protection. You are the supreme mother of the gods. Now, we have to give a little background here too about what we might call Shakta Advaita. Most of us are probably more familiar with Shankara's Advaita Vedanta, where it's taken that Brahman is the absolute reality, but and the world is some sort of an illusion. He says it's not, you can't say it's unreal, but you can't say it's real. But it's due to Maya's power to sort of superimpose another reality on Brahman. So the emphasis here is on Brahman being the underlying reality. But as Sri Ramakrishna over and over again states, Brahman and Shakti are inseparable. They're one. In fact, they even say that in the context of Sri Ramakrishna and Sarada Devi. They're inseparable. They're really one. And you can't really look at them as separate. And so in the Shakti tradition, it simply takes the other standpoint. It looks at the standpoint of seeing the totality as the Shakti power rather than as the absolute reality of Brahman. So it's just looking at the same reality and looking at the other half and putting everything in terms of that. It's one. We're talking about the one, whether you're talking about Advaita Vedanta or Shakti Advaita, but as long as we're talking about it, we have to pick a standpoint. And so Shankara picked one standpoint, the Shakti Advaitas picked the other standpoint. And so all of the Chandi is put in the standpoint of the Divine Mother. But you get the same idea, really, if you just think of the Shakti and Brahman as one. And we're saying the same thing about it, except we're just using the feminine. So you can see that she is the mantras of consecration to the gods and the ancestors. Especially in the ancient times, many sacrifices were done, sacrificial ceremonies were done, and many mantras were uttered. And these mantras are said to verily be the Divine Mother. The mother is in these mantras, and it's because of these mantras that these sacrifices are propitious, that they actually have a value, they actually have an outcome. And so they are the embodiment, the sound. We're going to run into this over and over again. You'll see that they're the same kind of ideas are reiterated in different ways in these four hymns. But that sound is her essence, and that the scriptures are her essence, the mantras are her essence, and so forth. And then the other thing that we'll find over and over again is that she's both immanent and transcendent. So it says here that she's the imperishable, eternal one. She abides as the transcendent being, and she's inseparable and inexhaustible, inexpressible, the eternal source of all becoming. So she is that ultimate being, and she's also that which allows it to become. So in this tradition, it's not looked upon so much that the world is unreal, but that it is a temporary manifestation of the underlying reality. The Divine Mother manifests it and then brings it back again, manifests it and then brings it back in again into seed form. So in the next paragraph, by you is this universe supported, of you is this world born, by you is it protected. So you see that on O Devi, you are always consuming it at the end. So she's really being given the three main functions that we usually think of in terms of Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva: creation, preservation, and destruction. She's the universe is born of her, is protected by her, and consumed. You are the creative force at the world's birth and its sustenance for as long as it endures. So even at the end of the world, you appear as a dissolution. You who encompass it all. You are the great knowledge and the great illusion, the great intelligence, the great memory, and the great delusion, the great Devi and the great Asuri. So again, the Divine Mother being everything, she is the source of all the knowledge in the universe, the knowledge of just ordinary things, and all the scriptural knowledge, all the sacred knowledge, all the knowledge of the ultimate reality. And it's because of her indwelling in everything that beings like us have intelligence. We have intelligence because we are manifestations of the great Devi, and she encompasses that. Memory is important because if it weren't for memory, we wouldn't be able to function in the world. We wouldn't remember how to do anything. And so memory is essential to the manifestation, to the creation. And yet it's a great delusion because it's this sort of temporary manifestation magic show that's going on, and we don't realize that it's all come from the One. And in this case, the One is thought of as the Divine Mother. But as I say, you can just put Brahman in there and you come out with exactly the same idea. The third big paragraph, you are primordial matter, differentiating into the threefold qualities of everything. You are the dark night of periodic dissolution, the great night of final dissolution, and the terrifying night of delusion. You are the radiant splendor. You reign supreme, yet are unassuming. You are the light of understanding. Modesty are you, and prosperity, contentment, tranquility, and forbearance. And we saw many of these same appellations in the hymn that we sang earlier today. And we'll see these same kind of attributes repeated in several contexts. Armed with the sword and the spear, the club, the discus, waging war with conch, bow and arrow, sling and iron mace, you inspire dread. Yet you are pleasing, more pleasing than all else that is pleasing, and exceedingly beautiful, transcending both highest and lowest. You are indeed the supreme sovereign. This is acknowledging the fact that when you manifest a universe out of oneness, you end up with pairs of opposites. And so you're going to end up with things that are beautiful and pleasing, and you're also going to end up with things that are terrifying and difficult and horrifying. And so she embodies all of those. We got that in the last paragraph too, which I forgot to mention. She's the great Devi and the great Asuri. She's the one person show. She's the consummate actor that acts out all the roles in the universe. The trouble is we've forgotten that she's the one doing the acting. And we think we're doing it. We think we're the doers, but we're not. It's all of her divine play. Whatever exists, true or untrue, and whatever it may be, O soul of everything, you are the power of all that. How can I praise you? By you, even he who creates, protects, and devours the world is subdued with sleep. That's, of course, Vishnu. Vishnu's lying there asleep. And it's like, wake up, Vishnu, wake up. You've got to wake up. And so that's what Brahma is trying to get across here. And so, again, we see the idea that everything is coming from the divine Shakti power. Who here can praise you? We're going to end up with that idea again and again as well, especially right at the end. You have caused even Vishnu, Shiva, and me to assume our embodied forms. You see, the idea is that she's the all-pervading power of the universe in the completely undifferentiated form, complete undifferentiated energy. And it's through the power of Maya that it manifests. And so all of the gods and goddesses are manifestations of Shakti or energy. And so she's the power that allows that to happen. Who can then truly praise you? Thus extolled, O Devi, may you, with your exalted powers, confound those unassailable asuras, Madhu and Kaitava. Let Vishnu, the Lord of the world, be quickly awakened from his slumber and be roused to slay the two great asuras. All right, what I did in this one is I took each of these four sections, and Brahma is said to have four faces. So I had each face sing one of these sections, and then they sang them all together at the end. So they each had a different tune. I'm not going to play the whole thing. Let's see if I can find where the end of this is. I think this is the last face. Oh, that's all of them. It's not very loud. Can we turn that up a little? Let's see. Oh, there we go. So this is the last face of Brahman, to sing that last paragraph. Should be Madhu. Now they're all going to sing their voice together. These are not chaptered, so it's a little bit tricky for me to line these up. All right. All right, so the second hymn happens at the end of the second section of the Chandi. The second section has to do with the slaying of Mahisasura, which is probably the most well-known story of the three. And it's the one that's being celebrated during the Durga Puja season. And at that time of Sunday, on that 48 minutes, that's the time when she's slaying this, what's called the buffalo demon. Now, the buffalo demon, just like Madhu and Kaitaba represented the tamasic nature of the ego, Mahisasura represents the rajasic part of the ego, a very active part of our ego that wants to be up and doing. But it wants to be up and doing all sorts of things that aren't necessarily conducive to our spiritual practice. And it keeps changing form. We get bored with one thing and we go on to another. So it's this, he's a shape-shifting demon, and he's constantly evading being killed off. Our ego does that. The ego tends to evade being killed off by sneaking around and taking other forms that we might not have anticipated. So in this hymn, we'll read some of this, and again we'll find all of these elements of the Shakta philosophy built into the hymn. This is them singing in praise. She predicts that the gods will praise in this very spot where I'm going to slay you. And she's addressing Mahisasura and telling him that she's going to be slaying him. She predicts that the gods will be celebrating at this spot and singing her praise. And so this is what they sing. To the Devi, who spreads out this world through her. To Ambika, who is worthy of worship by all the gods and great seers. We bow down in devotion. May she grant us that which is auspicious. May she, whose unequal might and splendor, even the blessed Vishnu, Brahma, and Shiva are powerless to describe. So again, the same theme, that she is beyond description. And of course, as I said, we say that about Brahman. And Brahman is beyond description. And so again, we have the same idea. May she, Chandika, be intent on protecting all the world and destroying the fear of misfortune. Now, don't let all the different names confuse you. The Divine Mother takes on many, 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 many different names, and one of them is Chandika. In fact, Chandika is one of the most frequently used names for her. Interestingly enough, even though this is sometimes referred to as a text on Durga, Durga is not mentioned that many times. Saraswati is only mentioned once. Some of our common names for the Divine Mother don't come up all that often. But Chandika is one of the more popular names. All right, so this idea of being a protector of the world and destroying fear is another theme which comes up. And the name Durga has that energy as well. It comes after protecting, or like a fortress, that she is your fortress to protect you against the evils in the universe. O Devi, we bow before you who are yourself good fortune in the dwelling of the virtuous and misfortune in the abodes of the wicked. Again, she's acting both parts. It's like maybe as a kid, you might have played with toy soldiers or something, and you had two armies and they were fighting each other, or you'd have, a set of dolls or something, or you'd draw cartoons of different images and you make up stories and so forth. Similarly, she has created both sides of this battle. She's dwelling the virtuous misfortune, the abodes of the wicked, intelligence in the hearts of the learned, faith in the hearts of the good, modesty in the hearts of the high-born. May you protect the universe. So again, we have this idea of modesty and faith, intelligence. All of these are qualities that are divine qualities. So when we observe these qualities in other people or try to cultivate them in ourselves, we can think that these are coming from the Divine Mother. Number 4, how can we describe this form of yours which surpasses thought, and your abundant exceeding valor that destroys evil, and your deeds in battle, O Devi, among all the throngs of gods and demons? You are the cause of all the worlds, though containing the triple forces of creation within yourself. You are untouched by any imperfection. Just like we say in the chant that we usually do at the end, Pur Namada, Pur Namidan, everything flows from Brahman, and yet Brahman stays unchanged. Same idea here. Everything is flowing from the Divine Mother, but she remains untouched of any imperfection. You are unfathomable. Again, the same idea. You're unfathomable to Vishnu, Shiva, and the other gods. You are the resort of all. You are this entire manifold world, and you are primordial matter, supreme and untransformed. O Devi, you are the mantra of consecration. Again, this idea that she's the energy of the sound of the words that are uttered during various ceremonies. The utterance, mantras of consecration, whose utterance in all sacrifices brings satisfaction to the whole assemblage of gods. And you are the mantra which humans proclaim as the cause of satisfaction to the host of ancestral spirits. O Devi, you are the cause of liberation and great inconceivable austerities. Sages yearning for liberation contemplate you with senses restrained, intent upon truth, with all faults cast off, for you are the blessed supreme knowledge. So she's the source of the energy which allows spiritual aspirants to actually do their spiritual practice. So when you feel motivated to do your spiritual practice, realize that power is coming from the Divine Mother. Again, this idea of sound. With sound as your essence, you are the treasury that holds the taintless Vedic hymns sung to resound joyfully with your holy name. You are the blessed Devi, who embodies the 3 Vedas. Now, they left out the Atharva Veda, the earliest or the latest of the Vedas, and I didn't find an explanation for why they did that. Intent on conferring well-being, you are the supreme destroyer of pain in all the worlds. O Devi, you are the intelligence by which the essence of all scriptures is understood. You are Durga, the vessel free of attachments that takes one across life's difficult ocean. You are Shri, the radiant splendor that abides in the hearts of Vishnu. Now, this word Shri was used originally in the Vedas just to represent the radiant splendor of any deity. And then it eventually became associated specifically with Mother Lakshmi, who was the consort of Lord Vishnu. So sometimes you end up with kind of a mixture of references. This Chandi was written relatively late. It's good from a scriptural standpoint. It's much later than the Vedas, much later than the Puranic scriptures of the Mahabharata and the Ramayana. It's much later than Patanjali. I think it's something like 8th century or something like that. So it comes much later, and so you get all sorts of mixed references to things in it. Okay, and then you are Gauri, the shining goddess who abides with the moon-crowned Shiva. Gauri also refers to the Devi's aspect as a sattvic aspect, a shining golden aspect, as opposed to some of the more ferocious fighting aspects. Gently smiling with your shining face resembling the full moon's orb, and is as pleasing as the luster of the finest gold. Again, we often think of the divine feminine in terms of the moon and the divine masculine in terms of the sun. And the sun is, of course, you can't look at the sun without going blind. The moon is very pleasing and soft. And so when the divine is reflected in a manifestation, it's much easier to comprehend. And so this is the idea that the Devi Mahatmyam is trying to explain, that she is represented by the full moon's orb, and that's much easier to comprehend, and it's very pleasing. But then she says, how could the great demon Mahisasura, even though enraged, be moved to strike it? Well, then, of course, when you think that everything is the embodiment of the Divine Mother, and how human beings have mistreated the manifestation and each other through all history. So if Mahisasura represents that evil part of our ego, we can see that indeed the evil parts of our ego often are striking the divine manifestation. Still stranger was it, O Devi, that Mahisa did not perish the instant he beheld your wrathful face, reddened like the rising moon, and scowling frightfully, for who can behold the enraged faith of death and still live? Now we find these references of this sort of reddeningness and so forth, because this is, remember, the Rajasic ego, the middle portion of the story has to do with conquering the Rajasic ego. And so you fight fire with fire, you fight Rajas with Rajas. And so the Divine Mother is taking on this Rajasic aspect. O Devi, who are supreme, be gracious to all creation, for when angered you can annihilate multitudes. We saw this the moment you brought Mahisasura's vast power to an end. Those to whom you are bounteous are honored among peoples. Their riches, theirs are glories, and their righteous acts know no limit. They indeed are blessed from devotion, children, attendants, and wives. Now you see in this myth, Mahisasura has conquered all the gods. The ones that have had all the posts kind of ruling the world and taking care of things nicely. Mahisasura has taken over all of their powers. And so that's why the Devi has to come forth. In this particular section, what they do is they realize that their powers have originally come from the Divine Feminine, so they are going to invoke a great Devi by combining all of their powers back again. And so all the fragments of powers that invested in them are now manifested in this great Devi. And she's now then going to kill the great demon Mahisasura. It's not a task that one can leave to just a fraction of the power. You need all of it combined. Those to whom you are bounteous are honored among people. Theirs are riches, theirs are glories, and their righteous acts know no limit. They indeed are blessed with devoted children, attendants, and wives. So the Divine Mother grants boons to her devotees in the worldly aspects. The things in the world are granted to them. One who is virtuous and ever mindful performs daily righteous deeds, O Devi, and by your grace attain to heaven. Are you not then the giver of rewards in all the three worlds? So not only in this realm of granting prosperity and so forth, but also in the afterlife. She's the one that grants liberation, the final liberation. Remembered in distress, you remove fear from every creature. Remembered by the untroubled, you confer even greater serenity of mind. Dispeller of poverty, suffering, and fear. Who other than you is ever intent on benevolence toward all? Now we're going to see how universal this benevolence towards all is in the next few verses. The world attains happiness when you slay its foes, and though they may have committed enough evil to keep them long in torment, even as you strike down our enemies, O Devi, you think, may they reach heaven through death in battle with me. Who does your mere glance not reduce all, or why does your mere glance not reduce all asuras to ashes? Because when assailed by your weapons and thus purified, even those adversaries may attain the higher world. Even towards them, your intentions are most gracious. Now, the author of the Chandi seems intent on getting this idea across, and it's repeated again. If the intense light flashing frightfully from your sword or the glaring brilliance of your spirit did not blind the asura's eyes, it was because you made them behold the moon-like radiance beaming from your face. O Devi, your nature is to subdue the misconduct of the wicked. Others cannot equal your inconceivable grace. For even while your might destroys those who have wrestled power from the gods, you show compassion towards those very foes. To what may your prowess be compared? Where else is there beauty so ravishing, yet striking fear into enemies? Where in the three worlds are compassion in heart and resolve in battle, seen as they are in you, O beneficent Devi? Destroying all foes, you have saved the three worlds. Slaying them in the battlefront, you led even those friendly, hostile throngs to heaven, even while dispelling our fear of them. Salutations to you. Now, the last part talks more about the various weapons that she's going to use and so forth, and how she's going to protect us. So, protect us with your spear, O Devi. Protect us with your sword, O Ambika. Protect us with your clangor of your bell and the resonance of your bow string. The spear often represents penetrating insight, and the sword represents the sword of discrimination. And of course, the bell, the resonance of the bell, is that, again, that sound energy of the universe. And it has the idea of being able to purify everything, the purifying nature of the sound, which would then rid the world of evil tendencies and bring it back into balance. And the bowstring, again, the resonance of the bowstring, again, is a kind of vibrational image. And the, see, I have some notes on that. I can find them. I kind of got lost here in my notes. Anyway, let's go on because I may not find it time. Okay, with your gentle forms that move through the three worlds and with your surpassingly terrible ones, protect us and also the earth. O Ambika, with sword, spear, mace, and whatever weapons your tender hands have touched, protect us on all sides. All right, so I had to translate this into very many different sections, and I had to cut a lot of it out. And so the second set of papers that are not stapled together represent the sections of the words that I took out and set to music. So this should be fairly close. This is right at the end of the battle. The asuras that are left, they've lost their leader, and so they're Did I give you these birds too? I hope. Salutation to the Navy. Did I get that one? I forgot to give myself a printout. she promises them that if they get into trouble, just call on her. And of course, they get into trouble and they have to call on her, which is the next hymn. But the next hymn is the beginning of the third section, which, since we've already had the tamasic ego destroyed and the rajasic ego destroyed, we have to work on the sattvic ego in the third section. Now, this story does not seem to appear in any other place. The others we've found elements of, it wasn't in the exact form as it was put in the Chandi, like in Madhu and Kaitava and so forth. And there were references to the Mahisasura episode in other parts of the Puranic scriptures, but this one doesn't seem to appear anywhere. And so it's speculated this may have a non-Vedic origin, and that has then been incorporated in this. But it starts out with, again, there's some asuras that have taken over all the duties of the gods, and they're just wandering around with nothing to do, no place to go, no home, no job. So they represent the homeless here. And in this one, I mean, we only had Madhu and Kaitava in the first one, and in the second we have Mahisasura and a whole bunch of kind of peculiarly named generals whom are not really very well defined. In this one, you've got a whole series of demons that have various positions. So she has to defeat a whole bunch of them. There is Chanda and Munda, two great generals. The first one is Jumalochana, and then Chanda and Munda, and then finally Shumba and Nishumba, who are the two brothers who have taken over the entire universe and caused the Devas to have so much trouble. And they are very sophisticated. They're not rough and tumble, kind of angry warrior type demons. They've amassed all this wealth and glory, and they've got these beautiful palaces. They've got all fine jewelry and all the finest animals, and the great music and art and all the beautiful people and so forth. They're all theirs. And so the gods partition the Devi to figure out a way to conquer them. And so she takes the form of a rapturously gorgeous young lady in order to entice them. So this is the one that we had the middle portion of in our song that we did earlier today. And so let's look at what comes before and after all of those various qualities that we read about in our hymn together. Salutations to the Devi, to the great Devi. Salutations always to her who is auspicious. Salutations to her who is the primordial cause. To her who is gracious. With mind's intent we bow down to her. Salutations to her who is terrible. To Gauri, the eternal shining one. To her who sustains the universe. Salutations again and again. So again, we have this encompassing of opposites. She's both the terrible and she's both this eternal shining Gauri. Salutations always to who is moonlight and who has the form of the moon and is blissful. Another reference to this idea that she's this gorgeous moonlight reflecting on the world so that we can comprehend the essence of life, since the sun is too much for us to take. We bow down to her who is auspicious beauty, and of course she will be very auspicious and beautiful in this next story. We make salutations again and again to her who is prosperity and attainment. Salutations again and again to her who is the fortune and misfortune of kings, to Sarvani, the consort of Shiva. Salutations always to Durga, who take us through difficulties, who is the creator and indweller essence of all, who is right knowledge, and who also appears dark as smoke. That's a reference to the sort of veiling power of Maya. Maya is, again, it's like a woman wearing a veil. You can't really see her true nature underneath the veil. And Maya has this veil that protects us from, or keeps us from seeing the reality behind it. We bow down to her, who is at one most gentle and most fierce. Salutations to her again and again. Salutations to the support of the world, to the Devi, who is creative action. Salutations again and again. Again, pairs of opposites. She's both gentle and she's fierce. She's supporting the world, and she's also this creative action in the world. To the Devi, who in all beings is called Vishnu Maya. Salutation to her again and again. Vishnu Maya, of course, Vishnu is the preserving aspect of the Trinity as we normally see it in Hinduism. And so this is Vishnu's Maya. In other words, the power that Vishnu has to create to keep us from seeing the reality of the universe. All right, so now we're going to go through these 19 various qualities that were attributed to her. And it's said that the triple salutation refers to one of two things. Commentators vary on this. It could refer to the fact that she encompasses the three gunas. She's created this universe out of what we call tamas, rajas, and sattva, the three gunas. And tamas is the veiling power of Maya, and rajas is the projecting power, and sattva is the revealing power of Maya. And so she's created the universe out of these three strands of Maya. And so we salute all three aspects of the Divine Mother. Another interpretation is that she is in charge of all the realms. She's in charge of the cosmic realm, the subtle realm, and the physical gross realm. Let's see, now I gotta find, I've been doing without notes all this time, so now I've gotta find my place. Here we go. Got enough space out here to spread out. All right, here we go. And again, this is simply a way of expressing the fact that all power in the universe comes from the ultimate source of power, which is Shakti. And of course, Shakti and Brahman are one. Brahman has the power of Shakti to manifest a universe. So, probably the most primary one is this one at the top of the next page there. To the Devi, who in all beings is seen as consciousness. And we often talk about consciousness as being one of those aspects of Brahman that is the all-pervading aspect of Brahman. It's the easiest one for us to understand as all-pervading. She abides in the form of intelligence. Again, we already mentioned how our own ability to think and reason, to remember, and memory's going to be in here too, comes from the fact that we are tied into the cosmic consciousness, which is coming from that ultimate source of energy. Salutations to the Devi who abides in the form of sleep. Now that might seem a little odd, but we go through cycles in our own life of waking, dreaming, and dreamless sleep. And just like the cosmos is said to run through those cycles. And so she is the one that also is in charge of sleep, like she's in charge of everything else. To the Devi who abides in the form of hunger. Well, hunger and thirst, which is going to come up few lines down, are two of our basic urges for living. We can't live without food and water. And so the basic urge to try to survive in the world is basically coming from the Devi. It's her divine play, and she's the one that wants to keep the play going. If she doesn't give us the urge to eat and satisfy our thirst, then we're not going to be able to continue. So it's because of her energy that's coming through us that we feel the pangs of hunger and thirst. To the Devi, who abides in all beings in the form of shadow. Again, shadow represents the pairs of opposites, light and shadow. We won't understand light if there's no shadow. If everything is blazing, brilliant light, there won't be any differentiation, which is something that people sometimes experience, either in like a near-death experience or in a deep meditative experience where great effulgent light simply engulfs everything. And so now you're not in any differentiation. You don't have any sense of creation or manifestation. And so when you go beyond the manifestation, everything is one light. If you're in manifestation, there's going to be shadow and light. And so she represents the creation of those shadows. She abides in all beings in the form of power. Well, that's kind of obvious. Shakti is power. So everything that we're able to do, we're doing on we've plugged into Shakti power. Shakti power is working through us. Figuring on time, okay? Okay, thirst, we already did. Forgiveness. Salutations to the Devi who abides in the form of forgiveness. That's an important energy in the universe, to be able to forgive and to let go of things. If we hang on to resentments or to things that have hurt us, we just keep hurting ourselves. So we have to be able to let go of that. And so that's an important quality for us to have, is forgiveness. And that power also comes from the Devi, because she not only can delude us, but she can also liberate us, and she can show us how to go towards liberation. And part of that going towards liberation is to be able to let go of things. Not only to let go of attachments, but to let go of aversions and hurts and so forth, and resentments and things like that. So that's an important aspect. The Devi who abides in the beings in the form of order. Now, this is a little bit obscure, but I think it's referring to the fact that the universe seems to have a certain order to it. I mean, if you look at just the living beings, we find that there are different kinds of animals. There are, and the biologists have separated them into various families and phylas and genus and species and so forth, because of their similarities. And so there's some sort of order to this creation. The chemical elements are ordered in a periodic table with different elements in the different columns having similar kinds of qualities to them. So the whole universe has a particular order to it, and she's in charge of that. She is the one who abides in the form of order. She abides in the form of modesty. Again, this is a quality that's necessary for us to work towards greater spiritual enlightenment. We have to try to lessen our ego. And so modesty is part of that process of letting go of arrogance, you could say. Salutations to the Devi in the form of peace. Again, when we meditate, we're trying to create a peaceful atmosphere. When we chant Om or chant our own mantra, it brings a sense of relaxation and a calming of the mind. If we take some nice, deep, slow breaths, we can calm the mind, and we gain a certain amount of peace from that. And it's the energy of the Devi that allows us to do that. To the Devi who abides in the form of faith. Now, this isn't faith in the traditional Western concept where all you have to do is believe a certain doctrine and that saves you. That's not exactly what's meant here. But the idea is that, especially in the early days, you had faith in the various sacrifices, and you pursued the various sacrifices in order to achieve certain goals. And you had a confidence, you could say, that would be a good way to define it, a confidence that the sacrifices were going to work. And you have faith in the words of the guru. You have faith that your mantra has connected you to a divine source of energy. The Devi who abides in all beings in the form of loveliness. Again, it's nice to think that every time we see a beautiful sunset or a beautiful forest, or we see the magnificence of the vast oceans, or fascinating creatures in nature, beautiful flowers, beautiful music, beautiful artwork, all the things that are lovely. They're lovely because the Devi abides in all things in the form of loveliness. So we can use that as a way to remind us of the all-pervading nature of the Devi. The Devi also abides in the form of good fortune. So whenever we feel fortunate and lucky and blessed, we can remember that it's the Devi who is abiding in that good fortune. To the Devi who abides in all beings in the form of activity, the whole universe is active. You know, every atom is always moving. Nothing is at absolute zero. Absolute zero is a state where all the subatomic particles cease to vibrate, and nothing is at absolute zero. Everything is always vibrating. And so even in what we think of as inanimate objects, there's a lot of activity going on in there. All the electrons and protons are vibrating down in there. And of course, as you get up into the living realm, we see that living creatures are also full of activity. Even when you're asleep, your mind is still active. There are a lot of parts of your brain that are still active in sleep. All your bodily functions are still going on. You're still breathing. Your heart's still pumping. If you ate a meal just before you went to bed, you're still going to be digesting. So all these activities have run on power, and that power is the power of the Divine Mother. The Devi who abides in all beings in the form of memory, we talked about that earlier. Compassion and contentment, these are all nice positive qualities that we seek to gain in the universe, and they come from the Divine Mother. And of course, she abides in the form of Mother. It's very easy to see that, to think the Divine Mother abides in the form of Mother. She's this, so any feminine aspect in the universe that's giving birth to something, she is being represented there. Just as she is the mother of the whole universe, the mothers in our physical sense are also part of that divine energy. And if you create something, you're the mother of something. You might be the mother of a novel or a piece of music or a piece of artwork, you could say. And so you're the mother of that particular creation. Now this one might seem a little odd. She abides in the form of error. You think, well, why would the divine give you error? Well, that's the nature of Maya. Remember, Maya is this thing that creates a certain amount of uncertainty in the world. We can't really see that it's all coming from the Divine Mother, that it all is the Divine Mother. It's coming from her and is her. And we don't see it that way. And so the error that we don't see it that way is also coming from the Divine Mother. And so she provides over all the elements and so forth. She pervades the whole universe. We've read all of these things before. And she's praised by the gods for fulfilling their desires and so forth and so on. And now please come and help us destroy all our afflictions again. All right, so the last hymn occurs at the end of this section, where she's actually managed to conquer Durvalochana, Chanda and Munda, and Shumba and Nishumba. And so they again raise in praise in the Narayani Stuti, which is another one which has repetitive phrases in it, just as we had salutations to the Devi in the form of this and this and this and this and this. We have now salutations to Narayani, and many of the different forms of the goddess are going to be reiterated here in this particular hymn. So we're running out of time, so I think I'll skip to just the musical presentation of this one. So you can go to the second set of papers where you just have the ones which are from the music. All right, now. It's 31:29. All right. Again, I had to split this into several sections because the hymn is very long. And you know, when you're thinking musically, you don't want to have 28 verses of the same thing. It's not, in Western music, that's not considered a very good way to do it. About the only thing that got away with that is Ravel's Bolero, or maybe something by one of the, who's the famous minimalist composer. I can't think of his name now, it's escaped me. Anyway. Salutations be to you, Narayani, Narayani, in the ferocious manly wounded here by demons and their might protect the world's free. Salutations be to you, Narayani, Narayani, on the life and holy and the will you save me to the demon and wrath when your name is the Lord is on me. Salutations be to you, Narayani, Narayani, in the frightful days and the gates in shame, you destroy the army of mighty tears and your blood has shield our duty. Krishna's Right, so there were, of course, other sections that we're not going to do right now. That cover some of the other verses in the original hymn, and I had to kind of split it up. And the Chandi itself simply ends in not a very dramatic way, so I had to take portions of the hymn and put them in a course for the final course. But anyway, the basic idea here again is that you can think of the whole universe as being the divine feminine, as well as all coming out of Brahman. And it doesn't really matter, and Sri Ramakrishna emphasized that over and over again, that Brahman and Shakti are one. So you can think of it as coming out of Brahman, you can think about it as coming out of the Divine Mother. They're one and the same, and it's just our way of looking at things that changes our perspective. But it does give you a bit of a different outlook in that, whereas the Chakras Advaita seems to leave us the feeling that this world is not divine, the Shakta tradition tells us that it's imbued with divinity. Everything in this universe is imbued with a certain level of divinity, and that we can use that to remind ourselves of the divine all the time, which is really what religious life is about. I often say that religion is about finding ways to remember God all the time. So if you can find ways like this one hymn that says it's power, it's modesty, it's beauty, it's thirst, it's hunger, it's all of these things. Anytime you're hungry or you're thirsty or you see something beautiful or you feel compassionate or you feel sleepy, remember that it's coming from the divine, and that will allow you to remember the divine throughout the whole day. All right, I'll close with a chant and then we can offer flowers. Purnamada, Purnamidam, Purnamudachyate, Purnasya Purnamadaya, Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Filled with Brahman the things we see, filled with Brahman the things we see not. From out of Brahman floweth all that is. From Brahman all, yet is it still the same. Om peace, peace, peace.
And can I mention the things that are coming up?
Yes.
And of course, we have the Murti of Kalima. That's from India. It's just been in the shrine upstairs, so we put it down for the special occasion of Navratri. So we have Swami Atmadivyanandaji coming the 28th of October, and his topic is finding happiness. So that could be a really good idea. And then the next weekend, we're really packed here. Of November, we have another weekend retreat with Swami Atmadivyanandaji. And so bring all of your textural questions and all of your cutting edge questions and all that. But we're going to do the same thing we had. Friday, satsanga. Saturday, we're actually going to be at the temple. And Sunday, we'll be back here. So it's a little bit of a mix up. But you guys get a chance to have all weekend.
2 weeks in a row?
Yeah. Well, one Saturday, only Saturday is Swami Atmadivyanandaji. And then Swami Atmadivyanandaji is here on the next weekend, the full weekend. And then, of course, we have Swamiji's coming back again then on the 15th. Is it, Swami? 15th?
15th, yeah. I'm going to delay it so that you don't.
Yeah, you don't get an
Don't eat
overdose.
3 things in a row.
You're going to be too holy between all of these.
Won't be able to keep
God intoxication.
Right? We're all going to be crawling around here somehow.
Jeff, now we know that we are part of Divine Mother. We are always holy.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and we'll cut as many flowers as you want because she's so beautiful and she deserves as many flowers as we want to give her. So, okay, thank you so much for coming today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for the great talk. Very, very relevant to every day.
Sadly. Bye, everybody.